Howdy. Welcome back to the top 10 albums of October 2024, Halloween Sound. Tonight, we are going to be taking a look at number 7, Lake of Sorrow by The Sins of Thy Beloved, released in 1998. Hailing from Norway, The Sins of Thy Beloved present a unique blend of death doom and symphonic gothic metal. For better or for worse, this band is truly unlike any I have heard before. You want to see why? Well, let's get into it. This is Lake of Sorrow. Starting with our opener, My Love. The biggest thing about this band that really stands out are what I call the growls. Now, that could either be from Glenn Morton or Arid Christensen. I apologize if I'm saying that wrong, but they do backup vocals as well as the guitars, and I would have to imagine one of the two or both are doing the growls or the very low screams. And if you're wondering what I'm talking about, let me just go ahead and show you what you will hear first thing off of this record. So, as you can hear, probably the best example of an acquired taste. I'm not the biggest fan of it. I'm not the biggest fan of how it's presented, how it's worked into the overall music. It really is a constant battle. Most days, it's a constant battle of me just fighting those growls off to enjoy the rest of the music. Some days it works with the sound because I have listened to it a whole bunch of times, but upon that first listening, yeah, I wasn't really into it all that much. What wasn't a battle to get into is the violin on this record. The violin performance is just beautiful. Pete Johansson is responsible for the violin that you will hear, and his performance on this album is nothing short of impeccable. Another aspect that I love about this album are the clean vocals. At around the 2:05-minute mark is whenever we are introduced to Anita Ogland, who will be doing most of the clean vocals on this record. Anita's cleans, in contrast with the low growls that we hear, are really what makes this group stand out, among other things. It really doesn't hurt that her falsettos are just so elegant. I'm a big fan of them. You can tell that this woman can sing a mean lullaby. Oh, put your ass to sleep, boy. At the 7:50 mark is my favorite section of this song. The entire band, minus the vocals, are all coming together in sync to have this awesome rhythm part. You got the drums, you got the guitars, you got the synths just all coming together to make this awesome piece. I fucking love that. Anytime a band will do prominent triplets like that all together, I can't help but love it. And yes, you heard me correctly. That was the 7:50 mark at overall, I think it's a 9-minute, 20-second song. The longest song on the record, and get used to that type of length. But that was My Love. This is the perfect way to start off the album because it gives you everything that you would want to know when it comes to The Sins of My Beloved. A very different type of sound. I'm not in love with all of it, but it still has some pretty good pieces that I'm going to find myself enjoying as we go along. After My Love, you have The Kiss. The Kiss is an epic tune with some pretty good key playing. I especially like the monologue around the 5:50 mark. You got Anita going like, remember that night when we made love? I laugh about it now. It is a bit dramatic, but as I'm listening to it, I'm just always waiting for that part. It's one of my favorites. And when it comes to the ending of The Kiss, it really comes very suddenly, and you have Anita just going forever. You just got this whole big ass build for the ending, and it just stops. We'll get to that. After The Kiss, we have Worthy of You. When it comes to Worthy of You, the first 2.5 minutes, Pete Johansson is serenading us with a bitchin' violin solo. Majestic is truly an understatement. This is the type of stuff that will make you have you monologuing yourself. In my 29 years, we have never had a winter this gruesome, this brutal. I've lost my family. I've lost myself. I yearn for the sun. I yearn for the heat. Please melt this icy core so I can become whole again. We're all having fun with it. This is a very dramatic album, and I really don't mean that in a negative sense. If you really, put yourself into that mindset, you're gonna have a lot of fun with this record, I'm telling you. The song fully kicks in not too long after this violin solo, and it really is a great highlight of every member's strength. At around the 5:10 mark, we are introduced to a key change, and the violin is right back into the spotlight. Pete Johansson, man, what else can I say? Everybody does a great job on this track. Whenever it comes to Worthy of You, this is the one that you're going to want to check out if you want to hear every single member in action. After Worthy of You, we have Lake of Sorrow. Our title track opens with the synth, bass, and guitar having their moment to shine, but especially whenever it comes to the synth playing. Please forgive me if I'm saying this wrong, but I believe it's Ingrid Stensland and Andres Tu that are responsible for the synth playing that we are hearing on this record. That's right, we have two key players on this. It's a big ass band. That's like a 7 or 8 piece band that we're rocking with here. I digress. Both of them are doing a lot of work on this track and a lot of work on this album. Most of the time you'll hear like an electronic synth sounds, maybe some like electronic strings going on, but other times you will just hear straight up piano. But no matter what you are hearing, all of it is very, very impressive in my eyes. Or I guess my ears is a better, that's stupid. And then the drums and bass will soon follow this. The low growls take most of the main vocals here. However, around the 360 mark, 360 is not a real time. The 330 mark, Anita is introduced while the song takes a much more softer turn. And then you got the 4:15 mark, which is my favorite part of the song. The keys are doing some really, really cool stuff on this section. Fucking get that shit. For the outro, we get a switch to a more 6/8 feel, and that's whenever the violin takes us home. So that was our title track, Lake of Sorrow. Moving on. We get to the 5th track of our album, Until the Dark. Personally, my favorite track whenever it comes to this album, it just happens to be one of the more tender tracks that we will hear. At least when it comes to the intro, you get a lot of soft aspects with this band, but don't count on it lasting long. They go back to heavy pretty quickly. I love the way that our main singer, Anita Oglin, just glides through these multiple key changes with her soothing vocals. But the main thing that really stiffens my socks is at the 2-minute mark. We hear this melody that the bass is introducing, and oh man, whenever the rest of the band follows it, fucking love it. Do, 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 bam. And that's awesome enough right there. I love that type of melody in my shit. But guess what comes after that? Ah, fuck. That's right, motherfuckers. Tubular bells. When's the last time you heard some bells on a goddamn track like that? The bridge is whenever things are brought down pretty considerably, and we ride that wave throughout most of the ending. Also, it is to note, this is the only song that does not contain growls. Now, whether or not it's a coincidence that it happens to be my favorite song, I'll leave that up to y'all. So if you are trying to ease your way into this band and into its sound, you're going to want to check out this track first. I believe it's the most digestible, for lack of a better word. So that was Until the Dark. Moving on. After that, we have All Alone. Around the 3:40 mark is whenever the lyrics stand out to me with this one. These words really sum up the overall lyrical theme with this album, and whenever it comes to Anita's writing, assuming that she is the main lyricist for the band. After All Alone, we have our closer, Silent Pain. The opening to this song has a great string section that reminds me so much of a classic rock song. It's on the tip of my tongue, but for God's sakes, I just cannot think of the title. Let's give it a listen and let me see if y'all can figure out which song I'm talking about, because obviously I can't. Outside of that, there isn't too much remarkable whenever it comes to the closer on this album, unfortunately. Not a bad song, not by a long shot, but not my favorite either, by a short shot. That makes sense. That doesn't fucking... If it was up to me, I would have switched this with Worthy of You, especially when you consider that awesome violin intro. I felt like that would have been a much more, I guess, grandiose way to end things, but what do I know? And that was Lake of Sorrow, a 7-song long album with a 54-minute runtime. Yep, 54 minutes for 7 songs. There is not one song on this album that is under 6 minutes. So if you like long pieces, here you go. In conclusion, as I mentioned in the beginning, this is the definition of an acquired taste. Once you get used to the sound, you're either gonna love it or you're gonna hate it. I don't think there's any in between. When it comes to goth, like the term goth or gothic, I feel like that gets muddied up with terms like emo and scene and all that stuff. But when it comes to this band, especially considering like the late 90s, this is what I feel like real gothic people were listening to. I'm talking sitting in a dark room, lighting up a candle, and fucking just writing in your diary or writing something while this is going on in the background. Sounds pretty fucking peaceful to me, if I'm being honest. But goth or not, it's a pretty unique sound that probably gonna take some time getting used to, but once you are, like I said before, you're gonna figure out whether you like it or not. The string and key work on this album definitely deserves some love. I mean, I've talked about Pete Johansson enough already, but it's well deserved, especially whenever you hear this album from front to back. It's just all over it. It's just one of the main highlights of this record. You can't escape it. You're not gonna want to either. And Anita's vocals are always a treat. I just love her high falsettos. She really makes things just so calm and this overall very chaotic sound, very heavy metal type of sound. On the terror scale, we're gonna go ahead and give this a 5 out of 10. The low growls help considerably, but whenever you add the rest of the band, you really enter this hypnotic state, and before too long, you're thinking you're in a big-ass castle in Transylvania, man. Alright, maybe not that intense, but just listen to it, and a lot of the instrumental factors, it may not be terrifying, it may not be, scary in that regard, but it's definitely fitting for Halloween, I think. So, The Sins of Thy Beloved. Would you have placed them higher? Lower? Would you have taken them off the list entirely? You let me know. On the next episode, we will be talking about number 6. And when it comes to number 6, let me tell you, that is a very, very appropriate number. We'll see you then. Stay tuned.